Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you a discussion about big rumors that are both highly speculative and highly tantalizing. Ready? Let's go. It's important to understand at this point what we're about to talk about are truly rumors. They're unverified assertions. We don't know what's true and what's not at this point. They're actually rumors, but they're pretty interesting rumors. And I want to thank Brother Pete, who you might know from the comments to these videos. He's the one that sent this to me originally, and he also said something to me that kind of allowed me to connect two different timelines that I think might be relevant to all this. This is an article from El Faro. El Faro is a Salvadorian media outlet, and unsurprisingly, they seem to have far more details about what's actually happening in El Salvador versus the regular crypto press, especially the role that Cardano might be playing in all this. A little background information here. The people who seem to be acting on behalf of El Salvador in the story we're about to cover are Ibrajim and Yusef Bukele, the brothers of Nayib Bukele. They are not government officials, but as the press secretary for the government pointed out, the president's brothers don't work for the government, but it's a secret to nobody that the president listens to them and frequently consults with them to make his decisions. El Faro reports details of three different meetings: May 27th, June 4th, and June 7th of this year. The May 27th meeting was with Jack Mallers, Bitcoin Lightning Network guy, CEO of Strike. The June 7th meeting was with Algorand, but the most interesting details seem to be about this June 4th meeting, which was with Cardano and an entity called Whizgrid. You probably recognize the name Whizgrid from some of the crypto press reporting about all this, usually just a quick little one-liner at the bottom that mentioned Whizgrid and Cardano. El Faro reports that Whizgrid is a Cypriot consulting firm dedicated to developing cryptocurrency infrastructure, and they have a little quote from the website: "We champion creative, untried blockchain concepts and convert them into fully formed, operational, and innovative financial solutions." That's a bunch of word salad. Don't really know what that means, but it's the kind of thing we normally see from blockchain companies. According to the article, Whizgrid had its first contact with the Salvadorian government clear back in November of 2019 at a digital technology event in San Salvador, El Salvador. El Faro claims to have over 2 hours of footage from, looks like the equivalent of Zoom or Google Chat meetings, as well as a bunch of documents showing Ibrajim and Yusef, the president's brothers, negotiating on behalf of the Salvadorian government all about this national stablecoin. And in fact, they've even included in the article a little 4-minute and 20-second clip that purports to have the founder of Whizgrid talking to Ibrajim and Yusef about the stablecoin, including the name of the stablecoin, the Colon dollar. Here's where we get to play fill-in-the-blank detectives a little bit. I've never heard of Whizgrid. Probably a lot of people outside the Cyprus blockchain scene haven't heard of Whizgrid. But according to this article, Whizgrid makes contact with the Salvadorian government in 2019. And then in April of this year, they submit this extensive report to the Salvadorian government all about the stablecoin, features of the stablecoin, a project timeline, and there have been discussions about various possible blockchain solutions. Here's one theory about what happened. And we also know already that the June 4th meeting also featured what El Faro calls Swiss blockchain company Cardano. It says in early June, Whizgrid made a proposal to the Salvadorian government alongside Swiss blockchain company Cardano to provide consulting services for its stablecoin and other blockchain projects. So we could fill in the blanks. What happened with Whizgrid? They made contact in November of 2019 with the Salvadorian government. They probably realized, hey, the Salvadorian government is very possibly going to be shopping for some blockchain solutions in the near future. They probably looked around and asked themselves, kind of the same questions we talked about in the video from yesterday. Okay, they need some blockchain stuff. Bitcoin can do the currency piece, kind of, but it really can't. It can do the store of value piece, maybe. And there's already this thing going on with the Bitcoin zone in the beach city in El Salvador. So Bitcoin's probably going to be involved. But there's some other stuff that's probably going to require some programmability, some kind of Turing complete blockchain. And among the large cap top 5 blockchains, same thing we talked about yesterday. You've got Bitcoin, no programmability. You've got Ethereum, it has programmability, but arguably it's broken by fees. It's too expensive. And in a developing economy like El Salvador, being too expensive is a problem. All you've got left with in the top 5 is Cardano that has programmability, scalability, and it's not absurdly expensive. Whizgrid probably went through this same logic, and I'm guessing they might have reached out to Cardano. If they know they have a potential customer in the Salvadorian government for a very large deployment of blockchain technology, they probably looked around and said, hey, Bitcoin can't do it. Ethereum maybe could do it, but it's going to be way too expensive to actually run on the Ethereum blockchain as it currently stands, prior to Ethereum 2.0 at least. That leaves Cardano. Even more interesting, Cardano is already doing a nation state level deployment with the Ethiopian Ministry of Education. And that brings us to the next thing the article says the Salvadorian government wants to do. El Faro says it reviewed a preliminary written timeline, and after the government wallet and stablecoin, the government wants to gradually digitize all government records and processes, starting with identification. I'm going to take you to the list here. Identification, social security cards, tax records, property deeds, birth certificates, vaccination cards, other medical records, subsidy cards, professional and academic certificates, and criminal records. You tell me, does that not have Cardano's Atala Prism written all over it? If Whizgrid was presented by this list of needs sometime in between November 2019 and today, and the article says the digital forms of those documents would be stored on blockchain technology, if Whizgrid is presented by those needs, hey, let's put all the following types of records on the blockchain, they're going to look around and say, who's even capable of this? There's only really one contender. Only one crypto project has ever done anything even approaching this on a national level, and that's Cardano. That's Cardano with the Atala Prism solution for the Ethiopian Ministry of Education. Here's where it gets kind of crazy. The article says that as they looked at the timeline, it looks like the government hoped to complete this digitization and record storage project between March and November 2022. They've also got the founder of Whizgrid saying, we don't actually have a regional office for Central America or South America. So if we were to do a project of this scale, why shouldn't El Salvador be the Cardano main hub for the entire region? It makes perfect sense. Let's take a moment and think about the breadth and depth of this project. The Ethiopian Ministry of Education project was gigantic. It was a gigantic project. I haven't heard any arguments that it's not the biggest real-world deployment in the history of crypto. This would not just be academic records. This would be professional records, criminal records, medical records, subsidy cards, birth certificates, property deeds, tax records, social security cards, national IDs. It's everything. They want to put the entire government. They want to take the entire government digital and put it on the blockchain. This is a gigantic project. Granted, El Salvador is not a gigantic country. It's a smaller country. But this is a gigantic project. Brother Pete, who sent me this article, also appreciated how large this project is. And in our messages back and forth, he mentioned the tremendous amount of storage that would be required to actually store this much data. And he also remembered that Charles had talked about proof of storage. This triggered something in my mind. wait a second, what are the timelines? When exactly did Charles say that? I went back and checked. It was in this video, the one to end video, where Charles talked about a possible future transformation of the Cardano consensus mechanism from being one that revolves just around plutarchy, proof of stake, who has all the ADA, they get to validate the blocks, to one where you have many different types of proof of merit. You might have proof of stake, you might have, computation, similar to proof of work. You might have proof of, social, doing things socially that benefit the network. You might have proof of storage. You might have proof of doing certain networking things for the network. This one to end video was the video where he talked about proof of storage. This video was streamed live on June 8th. That date is relevant. Remember, the Faro article says in a June 4th meeting with blockchain companies Whizgrid and Cardano. So we've got Faro reporting a meeting on June 4th between Whizgrid and Cardano, where presumably they talked about all these different solutions that the Salvadorian government was going to be interested in. And it sounds like this wholesale digitization of the entire government was discussed, which would include storage of all these digital documents on a blockchain. It's not a big stretch to imagine that Charles, upon attending this meeting, or maybe somebody with Cardano attending this meeting and reporting back to him, that Charles had the same thought that Brother Pete did. Wow, that's a lot of storage. We're going to need something to help with all the storage, because that's going to create a pretty big amount of data, a pretty large amount of data on the blockchain. If all that goes directly on the blockchain, then 4 days later, June 8th, we have Charles coming out with the one to end video where he talks about proof of storage. Could this all be a huge coincidence? Of course. Certainly, this could just be a coincidence. We don't know. We don't know what's actually going on here. We're just reporting on rumors and making some simple extrapolations. Here's another coincidence for you, though. So right in this video right here, that purports to be of a meeting between Ibrajim and Yusef Bukele and the founder of Whizgrid, they discuss the stablecoin. And in their discussions about the stablecoin, one of the two brothers says, hey, we want to have the stablecoin. If we can make this government, and we need to have a government wallet for the stablecoin, he says, if we can make this government wallet backed by, I don't know, 500 million US dollars in the central bank to have this stablecoin teller where we can give out subsidies and loans to these people, that would help us a lot from the beginning. So he's saying they're envisioning they're going to need $500 million to back this stablecoin. Then we think about news we've heard from Cardano since then. Already at that point, we knew about the tri-coin system that's involved in things like AgeUSD on Ergo. And we saw Professor Kiais in his Stable Fees article mention this system. And since June 4th, we saw Cardano come out with the Djed formal verification paper that seems to describe, it's not even public yet, but we saw the abstract and a few pages from it, and it seems to describe the same tri-coin system. The interesting thing about that system is that that's a crypto-backed stablecoin. So El Salvador has this problem, and let's say they talked about it in that June 4th meeting. They are envisioning that they would have to come up with $500 million US dollars to back their stablecoin. And Cardano has a solution where you could have something like Djed, a crypto-backed stablecoin. You don't need $500 million in the central bank. It could be crypto-backed. Could be another coincidence, but that would certainly be convenient for President Bukele to not have to come up with $500 million US dollars to back his stablecoin. Some of Charles' recent videos definitely seem consistent with this timeline described by Faro. You might remember in his June 21st AMA, somebody asked him, Dean here, Charles, thoughts on El Salvador, any communication with the country regarding ADA? And Charles replied in the affirmative. He said, yes, they've been talking to certain parties in the orbit of the government. That certainly sounds like it could be Yusef and Ibrajim, the brothers of the president. And he said they had filed some documents or something, made some kind of application for an official state visit with the president, and that he would actually have a suit made if they actually got this official state visit. He even said that some of those parties in El Salvador were talking about digitizing the whole government, and he specified that they would know more in 2 to 4 weeks. And there's more coincidence. 2 to 4 weeks later, we got the Djed stablecoin video, Charles's most recent video, where he mentioned that he'd been traveling to undisclosed locations for undisclosed reasons, and that they were under NDA. He would love to talk about it someday, but couldn't talk about it yet. I think all signs, we have a lot of things happening that are consistent with Cardano possibly being on the road towards some kind of El Salvador deal, whether it's the stablecoin or this gigantic digitization of all these government documents and storage on the blockchain. It's kind of looking like there's a good chance that Cardano might be involved in some kind of a large deal with the government of El Salvador. We don't know. This could be all mere coincidence. It could be that Cardano was in the running and isn't going to win or didn't win, or it could be that Cardano is actually going to be able to do some of these things, maybe all these things, with the government of El Salvador. No matter how it turns out, it's going to be interesting to watch it go down, and I will talk to you tomorrow.